This week I'm making a greeting card size watercolor of one of my favorite red tropical flowers. I will show you all the steps. You will see nearly every brush stroke that it took me to complete this painting. This watercolor took 1 hour to complete, but you can see it here in 11 minutes. I painted the yellow of the flower first because it makes more sense to do so, and you'll see why in a minute. This part of the flower has both cool and warm yellows, and I'm going to lay these colors down first, starting with the cool yellow and then accenting with the warmer hue. I'm going to then use a combination of two reds, mostly anthracnoctide red. I'm going to lay down the color wet onto dry paper, then I dip my brush into clean water and feather out the red on both sides to create lighter hues. By doing this, I'm forming the depth and shape of the flower. In some areas I see a different color red, so I'm going to add that warmer hue. Often when you're painting red flowers, you'll notice that there are areas where there's a cool red, a warm red, and then sometimes a pink or orange, and this all depends on where the sun is hitting the flower and where the flower is in the shade. While the paper is still slightly damp, and you're going to figure this part out through practice and experimentation, I'll dip my brush into the red paint and reinforce the saturation in certain areas, and I'm also leaving the areas lighter that should have more sunlight reflected. Your paint should feather out nicely if you're using good paper, and if the paper's not too damp. You can control this with your brush. If you'd like to see a video of some of the reds that I've painted with, check out the video titled 12 Best Watercolors for Bright Flower Paintings. It's 2 videos before this video, and you can see the red swatches above this flower, and those are the colors that I'm using. You can choose from colors that you have by matching to colors that you're seeing on my swatches. You'll notice that there are times where I don't finish one flower structure. I move on to paint the next one, and what I'm doing here is I'm letting the paper absorb some of the paint and dry even for a few seconds. This sometimes helps me to retain lighter areas of the flower. These reds that I'm working with are so strong and dominant. All of this helps me to model the shape of this interesting flower. And speaking of paper, this is Arch's 140-pound cold press, and it's cut down from a 22 by 28 inch full sheet. Back to the part where I painted yellow in the flower first. I did this because the red is so dominant. Painting the yellow first ensures that I leave room for this color. Otherwise, if the red overlaps too much, I won't be able to pull the red pigment up to bring it back to yellow. The stalk of the banana leaves needs to be green, gold, oranges, and then there's also a part that has browns and purple hues. Some of the detail of the banana stalk is done with dry brush, where I'm dipping my brush into a puddle of paint on the palette and then gently scraping it along the stalk. It's picking up the texture of the paper, leaving behind interesting details that really mimic what you see in nature. I've always found that painting small is a really big challenge. When I paint small, I have to be conscious of how much detail I'm putting into the piece and where. Every brush stroke matters. I've had periods of my artistic life where I've made lots of small paintings, and other times where I've gone years where nearly every painting is large. I find the process of painting these flowers, the repetition of doing one structure after the next, very meditative. There is an element of Zen that I experience, and you might too. Art can have a lot of challenges, so it's good to allow yourself to find these moments of tranquility when creating. God knows we're hard enough on ourselves, and if you're like me and you tend to be really critical of your work, after a while that just feels exhausting. Yet those same qualities push us to become better artists over our lifetime. They keep us learning. You just have to find the right balance. I'm winging the part where I'm painting this wide leaf. To be honest, I wasn't really sure if I was going to paint this in this small watercolor sketch. I was almost thinking I'd leave the background white for this painting, but now that I'm in the in-between part of this painting, I'm going to just go for it. I have to simplify the background from my reference photo. Actually, all of my composition is simplified and adjusted to the size of this small greeting card size watercolor. When this painting is finished, I can glue it onto a greeting card with an acid-free craft glue if I want. So I'm painting the greens with sap green and some of the other colors mixed on my palette. You can see me do this. You can choose colors that you have in your palette, so they don't need to be exact. I'm really just working intuitively in this part, putting down cheerful color. I'll look at my reference photos for a while, and then usually there's a part where you just have to go for it and work from your own mind. You have to find contrast and balance. I'm working very quickly and I'm not taking breaks, and this is helping with the creative process. If we're meeting for the first time, I'm artist Jenny Floravita, and I've been a professional working artist for 30 years. I make oil paintings and watercolor and mixed media art for the wall, and I'm also known nationally as a leading artist for my reverse painted glass chandeliers. So basically I'm a high-end art lighting manufacturer, and my clients range from CEOs to celebrities to school teachers. There's more information about my work in the links below. You can see my official website, which is floravitalights.com. And if you find value in my painting tutorials, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment for me. This helps me to push my videos through to more people. And if you'd like to be notified of my new video releases, I have an email list link below, just for artists. So at this point in the painting, I really want to wrap it up. I need to add some shadows and contrast. I'm letting my brush work be free. In such a small painting that has so much saturated color, if you find that you lose a little bit of contrast, you can fix this by two ways. You can either bring in some titanium white or gouache, or you can work a little bit longer and solve the problem by making some areas much darker. Keeping contrast and highlights is so much easier to do in a larger painting because you have more space in the paper. Everything takes longer and you have more time to think. So these small paintings are really quite tricky, but when they turn out well, they can be very rewarding. Heliconia flowers have a very interesting structure. They are waxy and exotic. This watercolor has been both fun and exciting to paint for its small size, and I got to work with some of my favorite colors. So here it is. Let me know what you think of this small painting, and let me know if you'd like to see me do a larger, more detailed composition of this flower. It would be a different composition completely, probably closer to the one in my reference photo. and I might even do it as an oil painting soon.